I want to introduce my friend Andrew, who is a clinical counselor. And I met Andrew when I was visiting Vancouver. Andrew is a West Coaster. Look at this guy. Doesn't that just say West Coast? And he runs an amazing nonprofit type of style counseling center called Alongside You. It is amazing. It's out of the box. It's revolutionary, I think, in counseling because they use art and dance and all kinds of things as well as counseling. And so, Andrew, I wanted you to come on and give us some of your wisdom for the next 15 minutes.
Oh, wisdom. Well, I hope it's wisdom. It's a collection of things that seem to help me keep my head on straight, and so hopefully this will be something that helps other people keep their head on straight. I think I've got that figured out there now with my slides. So let's dig in. 15 minutes isn't a long time, and it's going to be like sucking on a fire hose. So let's roll. So I'm really happy to be here because I'm just trying to figure this mess out too. I got two little girls who are 12 and 13, and I've got a wife at home in the middle of a renovation where 2/3 of our house is gutted down to the studs, and this was all like super awesome timing. So we're trying to figure it out like the rest of you. I hope this is an encouragement. While we're all trying to figure out how to parent during COVID-19, I'm trying to do the same thing. So this presentation isn't going to be a list of like 10 steps to take. It's hopefully a couple concepts that will help us keep our focus in the right place and validate what we're struggling with, because this is a real thing. This isn't some hocus pocus. Oh, it's not that. No, this is a real thing. And I loved how Sally we're not trying to teach homeschool. We're trying to like pandemic school, and it's 100% right. So I took a self-portrait. I don't know if any of you all have felt like this. This isn't actually a self-portrait, but it might as well be. This has been like the last few weeks for me, and I'm seeing at least Connie nod. I can't see everybody else, but COVID-19 has thrown our parenting through a loop. None of us have done this before. And suddenly we're not just parents, teachers, we're business owners working from home while parenting and so much more. Most of us are just trying to figure out if we need to put our pants on today, never mind all the other stuff. And so I want to encourage us to look at this maybe a little bit differently than we normally have. I want to talk a bit about the importance of caring for ourselves. See, our number one job as parents, I think, is to care for our kids, period, end of story. Now we're being asked to do that under even more intense circumstances thanks to COVID. It's like there used to be this tagline years ago during Obama's reign as president, thanks Obama. Well, now it's like thanks COVID. Here's the thing, caring for our kids is not the same thing as becoming a martyr, right? We don't have to completely sacrifice ourselves in order to do what we're trying to do for our kids. So the take-home message today is hopefully in order to care for our kids, we have to care for ourselves, because if we don't care for ourselves, we cannot care for anybody else. Anybody who's been on an airplane, hopefully not anytime recently, they always show you during the safety video, put your mask on first. It's the same thing here. The reason for that is in a plane, you got about 6 seconds from my understanding before you pass out. And if you've passed out, you can't help anybody else. And so that's kind of the concept that we need to keep right here, right? So real quick, Tammy talked a bit about the physiology of stress, which is great. You kind of stole a bit of the thunder, and now I don't have to talk about it. The reality is that we can't connect well if we're under stress and our physiology is rating. And if we can't connect well, we lose the number one thing that helps our kids, especially during a time like this when we're locked away and we are the only social interaction our kids get, unless it's by video at this point. And so that's why managing our physiology is so important. And so I want to talk a little bit about focus. Generally, when we're under stress, we lose focus on what's important. Everything is suddenly top priority because the part of our brain that organizes that and categorizes and makes a list in order of importance is dead. It's literally turned off. Your frontal lobe under stress, somebody just turned the lights out and our perspective is gone. And we go from being value-driven to task-oriented. I know this is one of my biggest challenges is my default and my felt strength is cognitive stuff. I can think my way through things and around things in circles and argue people this way and that, including myself. That's what I default to, and it's the least helpful thing that I can do. And this is what most of us struggle with under stress. We go from, I get to do this thing because I value X, to, oh my gosh, I have to get my to-do list done now. And if it's not done by the end of the day, like, the world's going to end. But we need more than ever now to remember our values. See, our value as parents has to be to care for and prioritize our kids during this time. But that doesn't mean making sure that all the things get done, because they're not going to. And in fact, it might even mean ditching a bunch of things. You might go from doing 20 things in a day to doing 2. And that's okay. If you do those 2 well and you connect with your kids, that's what's going to get all of us through this. And so I don't know about you guys, but I can definitely say that I've been in parental distress a whole bunch of times over the last month or so. And the challenge is that distress and parenting don't go well together. So parental stress affects the well-being of our kids and vice versa. And it erodes our self-efficacy. So self-efficacy, if you're not into psychobabble like I am, simply means how much you believe you're going to be able to do something and do it well. So stress becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if we're stressed, our kids are going to be stressed. If our kids are stressed, we're going to feel like we're failing as parents, and our stress increases. And when our stress increases, our actual ability to care decreases, and we actually do become worse at parenting. And so if we become worse at parenting, we start thinking we're worse, and then we repeat the cycle, and on and on and on it goes. And not only then do we think we suck, but we actually do start sucking at parenting. And this is parental burnout. And this is what we got to try to avoid. So you might be sitting here going, I'm just fine, everything's cool. And if that's the case, hallelujah, praise the Lord, God bless you, I'm really glad. Most of us aren't in that position, myself included. And so sometimes we're not very good at recognizing what's going on. And so here's a few signs and symptoms to see if, like, things maybe aren't as good as we like to think they are. So how many of you are maybe a little less enthusiastic about being around your kids right now? Now, part of that's normal because most of us aren't around our kids 24/7 and they're thinking the same thing. You're not alone. We're tired, we're run down, everything hurts. If you wake up in the morning and your first thought is, oh my gosh, my body hurts, that's not good. And that's not normal, that's stress. You know, if we're not sleeping, or we're oversleeping, or maybe we're sleeping just fine. This has happened to me many times lately. I'm getting like 7.5, 8 hours, which is more than I normally get. And I still wake up completely exhausted. Like, that's stress. And the other one, this one is me in a nutshell. We go from tolerating all the shenanigans our kids do and thinking they're cute to now when everything just pisses us off. You know, my kids are cute and adorable, but I mean, I don't know. I'm annoyed by them a good chunk of the time right now, and I'm trying to do something about that. So the other thing to watch for is our own anxiety, depression, trauma rearing its ugly head again. So I am blessed, as many of you might be, with a raging anxiety disorder, which I try to keep, you know, on track most of the time, and I'm relatively successful. Boy, is it getting put to the test right now. The other thing is we're removed from people now thanks to COVID, and yet some of us still want to do even less with people. So we're marooned in our house, and now we have all this wonderful technology that we're getting to use right now to connect with people, and that's like the last thing we want to do. And as a full-blown introvert, I understand not wanting to be around people all the time, believe me, but there's a difference between wanting our distance and monitoring our socialization to just not wanting to be around or with or connecting with people at all. There's a big difference. And right now we have all this time, and maybe the guitar, if you're a musician like me, is still sitting in the corner unused. There's no music playing, board games are on the shelves because we just aren't interested. That's burnout. So if any of you resonated with any of that, you need to pay attention. We all need to pay attention. You're burnt out. And if you don't start taking care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of your kids, and they need you. That's the reality. But what it looks like to take care of yourself is kind of backwards. See, prioritizing your kids sometimes means that you have to prioritize yourself first, which is kind of backwards to how most of us think as parents, I find. Your well-being is just as important as theirs. And actually, in fact, it's more important. Theirs depends on yours, not the way around. This is why if you're an airline pilot or you're one of the staff on the plane, you get your mask on first and you take care of yourself first before you go running around the plane taking care of other people. Because if y'all go down, so does the plane and everybody's screwed. That's the reality. And the same thing is in our parenting. And the reality is none of us can do it all. We all have our limitations. So we've got to do what we're able to do and set our expectations there. So here's some ideas. And with the time we have, I don't have time to go through a laundry list. So I'm going to put some on the screen and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do. So here's some ideas. For me, it's all about music. I've been a musician since the age of 5. I started out playing the piano in church, and I'm sure it wasn't very good, but that's how I started. And now I play a whole bunch of different instruments. And so for me, it's all about the music, playing, listening, writing. Music is also the first thing to go when I'm under stress. I've been trying to get my guitar back into my office for 2 weeks now, and it's still sitting in my loft. And, like I said, we're all trying to figure this out. I wanted to talk real quick about mindfulness because there's a lot of misconceptions about mindfulness. Mindfulness is not incompatible with logic, theology, or anything else you might be imagining if you're not familiar with it. It's not some voodoo thing either. It can look like breathing. It can look like prayer. It can be meditation. It can be music. It can be art. It can be dance. It can be any one of those things. It can be walking up and down the street that you walked up and down 100 times, just trying to see if there's anything different. That's mindfulness. Mindfulness is simply being aware of the present moment without judgment. That's it. And so it is also one of the most effective things for us when we're under stress. And I do not do it easily. I am the least mindful person naturally that I've ever met, and Connie can probably attest to that. I look more like a ping pong ball going bong, 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 bong. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. And the last concept I want to introduce is self-compassion. How we speak to ourselves on a daily basis is often way worse than how we would speak to anybody else. And the reality is you and I can only do what we can do as parents, no more. It doesn't matter if we want to or not. It doesn't matter. We can only do what we can do, and that's okay. But we tend to set these expectations so high. And we also have other people that set expectations so high. We talked a bit about school. I'm with you. The expectations of what our kids are going to do right now are a little out of whack. But I have a lot of compassion for the teachers because they're trying to teach in a way that they've never done maybe, and like they're trying to figure it out like the rest of us. It's okay. We're all in it together and we'll figure it out. But we got to watch our own expectations of ourselves. And this is why self-care is so important. See, our ability to care for our loved ones depends on it. The reality is that we say awful things to ourselves and we need to stop. We need to show ourselves some compassion. Dr. Kristen Neff was the one who really brought this into the limelight. And so if you're interested in this, I really encourage you to Google her. She's got great resources on her website. And this is the key to everything else I've said, is if we're not compassionate towards ourselves, we can't possibly do any of the rest of it. But if we can care for ourselves, we build our resilience and we model for our kids not only how to do it, but also the importance of doing it. This is one of the greatest things we can teach our kids in order to promote their resilience. COVID is a gift in terms of trying to figure out how to teach our kids to be resilient. And if we can do that, quite frankly, none of it matters because that is going to set them up for life. And so hopefully this is a good introduction. Obviously, it's not the end of it. And so let's keep the conversation going. But I wanted to show you a quote from one of my favorite people, Parker Palmer. He's a social worker, and he simply says, "Self-care is never a selfish act. It's simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift I was put on earth to offer others." So I hope that today put a bug in your ear that in 2020, caring for yourself, it's got to be a top priority. If we all do this, we'll be more resilient and we'll be better able to parent, and we'll be better with our kids, and we'll be better with ourselves and our relationships. And so just to finish up, if you're struggling, I want to help. I've got a clinic here with 15 counselors, dancers, art people, you name it. We're trying to figure out all this online stuff just the same way as everybody else. But luckily, I've done it for over a decade online, and so we scaled up pretty quick. But if you're struggling, we can see you anywhere across Canada. We do it securely. We do it with licensed professional counselors who all of their credentials, and we'd love to help you out. But I also know a lot of people are struggling financially now. And we started our clinic with the premise that we didn't want to ever say no to somebody because of money, and we never have. We're struggling as a business just like everybody else, so we also can't see all of Canada for free. But we started something called Frontline Online Counseling. So a lot of you are parents who are employees who have been laid off or reduced hours, or some of you are business owners. And so if you're a business owner, you've lost your business, you're an employee, you've been laid off, you're a frontline worker still working, but you don't have benefits. If that's the case, we'll see you up to 4 sessions at $50 a session just to try to help out. And after that, if you're still struggling, like, we're not just gonna like throw the line back in the water and say, see you later, like, talk to us, we'll figure it out together. We always do.
That's
So
so good,
hopefully that's the
Andrew.
help.
So good. Everyone, write this down. Take a screenshot right now, because I know Andrew's heart. I know him and his wife Meg, and they really care. Like, that's one thing that I really love about you guys, Andrew, is that you guys really care, and you really do live all of this. And thank you for being honest today. So good. And thank you. I felt you'll have to go in the chat after and just scroll through some of the comments. And if anyone has questions, maybe Andrew, do you mind sticking around for a few minutes? Just check out the
For
question
sure.
box, the chat. But there's people who just were like, thank you for giving us permission today. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you enough.
Oh,
Um,
likewise, Connie.
you're a gift. I'm glad you're in my life. So
Well, likewise. And thank you everyone for taking the time today. I know like taking time to do this is not easy. And right now I think we've got like somewhere around 200 people logged in still. Like, that's amazing.
that is,
Um,
yeah.
like,